the self-proclaimed first lady who stole from her nation by Silk Street 5 days ago.
She crowned herself Malaysia's first lady, even though the title doesn't exist. She lived like a queen. 567 handbags, 423 watches, 12,000 pieces of jewelry. Some of it funded by money meant for school
children. Can't even wear them.
Convicted in 2022, she still walked free. Then in September 2025, her luck cracked. The Court of Appeal shut down her latest bid to escape prison. So what did she do to earn the title of Malaysia's most hated woman?
Corruption, I
This
assume.
is Rosmah Mansor, the untouchable who stole from a nation. The ballroom lights glared as dignitaries entered the hall. But it wasn't Najib Razak, the new prime minister, who stole the spotlight. It was his wife. Rosmah Mansor swept in draped in couture, towering hair catching every camera flash. Ambassadors bowed, and whispers spread. Who was really running the country? Rosmah already had her answer. I am the First Lady of Malaysia, she declared, even though no such title exists in the Constitution. And she wasn't joking. Soon,
It's a
the Prime Minister's
Constitution
department
title?
quietly
I didn't even know
listed
that.
a new division on its website, FLOM, the First Lady of Malaysia office. It had staff, letterhead, and funding. Taxpayers were now supporting a role that didn't legally exist. The audacity was breathtaking. While past prime ministers' wives remained in the background, Rosmah demanded protocol, usually reserved for heads of state. She built the image of a monarch, an entourage, motorcades, and protocol that made her impossible
The rich
to
are
ignore.
gonna rich, I mean, you know.
Malaysians saw a woman who had crowned herself. But what they didn't
It's never enough to just be rich, right? Like, you know, they're rich, but they're still not happy. So they want everybody to, you know, like, respect them and, you know, pay them attention and stuff like that. I mean, like, this lady is the wife of the president or prime minister, was it? And yet she still doesn't feel like she has enough attention. It's kind of crazy.
yet see was how far her influence would reach behind the scenes. Behind closed doors, Rosmah's ambitions grew even sharper. If the FLOM office was her stage, the corridors of power became her kingdom. Cabinet ministers learned the hard way. It wasn't always Najib who had the final word. More and more, decisions were funneled through his wife. One former aide described the ritual. Senior officials waiting outside her chamber with dossiers, their futures hanging on her approval. A nod from Rosmah could move a contract forward. A frown could kill it overnight. They gave her a nickname, the real Prime Minister.
I see.
Her reach was undeniable. Cabinet appointments shuffled at her urging. Foreign negotiations paused until she weighed in. Allies rewarded, rivals sidelined. Even seasoned politicians admitted, if you wanted Najib, you had to go through Rosmah first. This wasn't a show of titles or protocol. It was something far more dangerous. Rosmah had turned her proximity to the Prime Minister into unchecked political power. Unelected, unaccountable, but
Right, no one voted for you.
And once she mastered influence, the next step was inevitable. Finding ways to turn that power into money. While ordinary Malaysians tightened their belts, Rosmah Mansor redefined indulgence. Private jets ferried her to New York, Paris, and Dubai. Five-star suites hosted her entourages. Security details shadowed her every step. Bills that could fund small hospitals were instead swallowed by her shopping sprees. But one jewel would come to symbolize her greed above all others.
I was gonna say, do you have to... Malaysia is another majority Muslim country, right? Is it? No? So I see that she's not wearing a hijab and the other ladies around her are. So is it like she's the exception because she has so much power? Or is it that it's a choice and there's a lot of people that don't wear it in Malaysia? I was wondering.
Pink Diamond, a 22-carat
Or is it because she's so
worth
powerful,
$27
she does what she
million.
wants?
U.S. investigators allege it was bought with money siphoned from one MDB. The contrast was devastating. International media branded her Malaysia's Imelda Marcos, a comparison Malaysians quickly embraced on social media.
I don't know what that is.
Posts mocked her excess. While we count ringgit at the grocery store, she counts millions in US dollars at jewelry stores. To the world, Rosma's luxury was a spectacle. To Malaysians, it was something far worse. Proof that she believed herself untouchable. But what happens when a nation that's struggling to get by sees its leaders flaunting wealth this obscene?
They get really mad.
By the mid-2000s,
It's just a never-ending thing, right? I mean, right now in France, massive debt and all that, right? The country is not doing too great. So politicians are working on stuff to tax the rich even more, right? Which they haven't been taxed enough, obviously. And some of the richest like billionaires that we have in France are like, already fighting back, talking about how it's unfair and already crying about their money when they have literal billions. You know what I mean? It's the rich doing the rich. I mean, like on one hand, I don't want to be someone saying that the rich are not humans anymore. They're still people, but at times it's almost hard to look at them as human, right? Because our level of existence is on such a different scale, between us normal people and the rich. And but what I mean rich is like, like someone who has, like hundreds of thousands to millions to billions, right? I don't mean middle class or something, even though I guess, when you're like poor, that still seems rich to you. Someone who can buy a car, buy an house and all that, it still seems rich, but I mean really rich, right? Like the disgustingly level of rich.
Anger was boiling over. Najib's government had introduced the GST, a nationwide sales tax on goods and services that made everything more expensive overnight. It was so despised that it would later be scrapped. But in those years, it bled ordinary Malaysians dry. At the Pasar Malam, families counted every ringgit, stretching their budgets thinner each week. Parents skipped meals so their children could eat. Young graduates joked grimly about never affording a home. And then came the images. Rosma stepping off private jets. Rosma surrounded by Birkins. Rosma dripping in jewels. The fury exploded online. Memes spread like wildfire, comparing her to Imelda Marcos. WhatsApp chains joked that her pink diamond alone could electrify Sarawak's schools. Her towering hair became a national punchline. She was no longer just Najib's wife. She had become Malaysia's most hated woman.
At the same time, that's like another aspect of things, right? Like clearly one of our problem and what will lead to our downfall is to flaunt our wealth so much, right? By wearing all this insane stuff. But then you've got like extremely rich, like Zuckerberg, for example, who his whole thing used to be like dressing like a normal person. He would just wear like normal jeans and shirts, right? So some of them try to, in public at least, look a lot more normal. Sometimes that's how they try to maybe like mitigate the criticism, right? While, they absolutely have all the rich stuff in private. In public, they still try to look at the poor people and be like, hello, fellow poor, we're the same, right? So I guess, yeah, it's probably a better strategy than just being so openly, disgustingly, like, rich and wasteful, because you don't need all this, like you're someone running the country, leading the country, supposed to help the country, and you're weighing like on yourself amount of money that could help so much of the country. It's kind of insane.
Liability so toxic that she threatened to sink her husband's dynasty. And Malaysians were about to discover that the mockery wasn't enough. Because behind the handbags and headlines lay something far darker. A scheme that stole directly from their children.
From school children?
In rural Sarawak, classrooms often went dark when the diesel generators failed. Students sat in the heat, and teachers struggled to keep lessons going without reliable electricity. For years, these schools in the interior begged for a permanent solution. Then came a promise, a 1 billion ringgit solar project, bringing power to 369 rural schools. On paper, it looked compassionate. In reality, it became one of Malaysia's most brazen scams. Prosecutors said companies had to pay massive kickbacks just to win contracts, inflating costs by hundreds of millions. And at the center of it all was Rosma Mansour. Rizal Mansour, her former aide, no relation to Rosma, testified she demanded up to a 15% cut on government projects. For the solar deal alone, that meant tens of millions flowing at her direction. The results were devastating. Overpriced panels, delays, equipment that barely worked. Schools that had waited years for reliable power were left with...
Just don't get how you even do that. I mean, aren't you already rich enough? You know what I mean? You've got millions of dollars in just a fucking jewel around your neck. Like, why would you not think that this would come out eventually and people would absolutely despise you around it? I don't get it. I don't get how you think like that, you know? I don't get it.
Systems that failed to deliver. Court testimony laid bare the meetings, the demands, the transfers, later echoed in a leaked draft judgment.
It's an addiction to money, I guess.
Years of
you just can't stop.
The evidence was overwhelming. The woman who lived like royalty was literally stealing from school children. But investigators were about to uncover something even bigger. A global scandal that made millions look like pocket change.
Even more.
While Rosma was siphoning millions from school children, an even bigger scheme was unfolding. One that would drag Malaysia's name into global headlines. 1MDB, Malaysia's sovereign wealth fund, was created to spark development and prosperity. Instead, investigators say it became a personal piggy bank. The U.S. Department of Justice alleged more than $4.5 billion was siphoned away. One of the largest financial frauds in history. At the center of the heist was a young financier named Joe Low. He wasn't a government official, but he had access, charm, and a network of shell companies that moved billions across the world. He lived like a movie mogul, yachts in the Mediterranean, parties with Leonardo DiCaprio, even funding Hollywood blockbusters like The Wolf of Wall Street. But Joe Low didn't move.
That's fucking ironic, considering what that movie is about.
Billions alone.
That's something.
The U.S. Department of Justice filing.
That's fucking something.
Someone higher, codenamed Malaysian Official 1. The world understood this to be Najib Razak, Malaysia's sitting prime minister. And the money trail didn't stop with him. Investigators say it reached his wife, Rosma Mansour, in the form of luxury handbags, jewels, and one symbol above all, a 22-carat pink diamond necklace worth $27 million. For investigators, it was the perfect symbol of excess.
Yeah.
For Malaysians, it was proof that their leaders' greed had reached the highest level of power, all while ordinary families paid the price. The fallout was global. Switzerland froze assets. Singapore filed charges. The U.S. pursued forfeiture cases to claw back billions. And Joe Low, he vanished, slipping into hiding under the protection of powerful friends. If you want to know where he is now, we've covered that in another video on this channel. Through it all, Rosma denied any role. She claimed ignorance, insisting she knew nothing of 1MDB. But financial trails and witness testimony told a different story. The walls were closing in, and Rosma Mansour was about to face a reckoning. Not from Washington or Singapore, but from her own people.
Good. That's what you want.
May 9th, 2018, election night in Malaysia. For the first time since independence, the ruling party fell. At the age of 92, Mahathir Mohamad returned from retirement and led the opposition to a stunning victory.
92.
For Najib Razak and Rosma Mansour, it was the end of an era and the beginning of a reckoning. Within hours, both were barred from leaving the country. The new government made it clear there would be no escape, no exile, no comfortable retirement funded by stolen billions. Then came the raids. Police swept through their luxury properties, hauling out evidence in front of the cameras. Malaysians watched in disbelief as the numbers piled up. 567 handbags, 423 watches, and 12,000 pieces of jewelry. Cash
Insane.
in 26
Insane.
different currencies. The total haul, more than $250 million US, made it the largest seizure in Malaysia's history. The trials followed. Najib was the first to fall. In 2020, he was convicted on 7 charges tied to SRC International, a 1MDB subsidiary. His 12-year sentence was upheld in 2022, and Malaysia's former prime minister was led away in disgrace. Prisoner number 87. But even in prison, Najib kept fighting. A 2024 royal pardon halved his sentence.
Why is he getting a pardon?
In 2025, he pushed for house arrest under a disputed royal addendum
Why is he getting a
the
pardon?
government insists doesn't exist. Some charges were even dropped on procedural grounds. For Malaysians, it was proof the dynasty still knew how to bend the rules. But if Najib could keep testing the limits of justice from behind bars...
I mean, again, it's like, it's the fucking endless system, right? Like, these two fucked so many people with money to make more money, to steal more money. And now that, you know, it's time for them to actually face justice, they're still so rich, they still have so much money that they can keep playing the game and barely get punished for all the bullshit they did, you know what I mean? So in the end, it's still money, 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 money. Like, it's all making it that they can just keep going.
What about Rosma? She faced her own day in court. In September 2022, she was convicted in the solar schools scandal and sentenced to 10 years in prison.
But
she bought herself time with multiple appeals and
there you
applications,
go.
remaining free while the case wound through Malaysia's courts.
What the rich can
That
do.
time appeared to finally run out in September 2025. The Court of Appeal dismissed her bid to challenge the trial judge. Her conviction stood, and while her lawyers may still fight on, the walls are closing in. The woman who once lived like royalty now...
I don't believe it. I mean, come on. So I guess this is like the latest news, but I feel like in a few months there'll be news that she did some other like lawyer stuff and that, you know, in the end she's gonna get very little or something and it's all gonna work out.
faces the reality.
Do you expect any
of life
differently?
as a prisoner. The dynasty had fallen, but the scars Rosma left on Malaysia were only beginning to be counted.
Alright. I don't know who's running the country now, but I hope they're doing better.
Today,
You know?
Rosma Mansour's empire lies in ruins. The Hermes handbags sit in evidence rooms. The seized jewelry gathers dust in government vaults. And the infamous $27 million pink diamond, once meant to symbolize untouchable power, has never been returned to Malaysians. Najib Razak, once Malaysia's most powerful man, now prisoner number 87, saw his 12-year sentence halved by a royal pardon, though he remains behind bars while fighting for house arrest.
Like, I don't know how that works, but like, the rivals are probably, you know, insanely rich too. So the insanely rich rivals are giving like a pardon to another insanely rich dude for stealing from everybody in the poor. Like, is there a better way to put this?
Rosma, meanwhile, saw her latest appeal dismissed, her 10-year prison term confirmed.
I guess she's getting a pardon soon too.
The woman who once styled herself as Malaysia's first lady now stands as a cautionary tale, not of royalty, but of betrayal. But the damage they caused cannot be measured in handbags or diamonds. It's in the schools of Sarawak, where children once studied in darkness
I mean,
because
it's
their future was stolen.
literally altered the country's
It's in the
development for
trusts
years.
of millions of Malaysians, broken by the leaders who claimed
So much money
to
that could
serve
have
them.
gone into the country itself.
Rosma crowned herself Malaysia's first lady. History will remember her only as the face of its greatest shame. The untouchable had finally been touched by justice, at least for now. And if you want
Justice.
to know where Joe Low is hiding right now, click here to watch our full investigation.
I mean, true justice is pretty simple in a case like this. Like, both of them, literally, like, there shouldn't be much debate. Both of them, literally, life behind bar for the rest of their life. It shouldn't be, like, more complicated than that. You've got people who get decades of sentence for, like, little stuff like drugs or, you know, like, I don't know, robbing, like, a convenience store or something, you know? They got, like, a few $100 or, like, I don't know what it would be in Malaysian money, right? And then people like this who, you know, played with this much money this is what they get. I mean, it's annoying. I always get so heated with this kind of video, you know. It's just, you know, the more time passes, the more I don't believe in any kind of justice system. It is literally just the punishment system. I'd rather call it that, because justice is not a word that really applies, I feel like, in a majority of sentences in case. Um, and I'm saying that about like the law system of most countries, right? You know, um, there's clearly no perfect system, right? Like you've got a country like Japan where it's known that, over 90% of people get convicted, which clearly is a broken system, right? Um, but then you've got countries like, us, France, or even the US, right? Where the system has a lot of like different rules of why you would get this amount of year or not, But on one side, you've got a case where like, someone stole like billions of dollars from like the public. Okay, they get 10 years. And then you've got some guy who sold drug and he gets like 40 years, It's when you look at stuff like that, you can't help but get angry, right? So I think like in most countries it's a broken system, and I don't have a solution for like a good system, but it's just infuriating to watch. It's just infuriating. All I can say is a link. A very interesting video. All right.